today is a little bit different. I'm at my parents' house. I don't have my mic. I have a mic, but I don't have its connector or anything like that to film a video, like an actual one. So we're just gonna get some lo-fi whisper soft talking videos today. My computer will probably turn off at some point in this, and then that's a scary body form and not a ghost behind me. So that covers that. And I'm in my middle school to high school bedroom right now, so that's fun. But I thought it would be really fun. I'm not a reader. I'm dyslexic, so I don't read a whole ton, but I thought it would be fun to read a book chapter by chapter. So this is Crave, and it's by Tracy, Wolff. And I'm pretty sure it's just like a knockoff Twilight, which is fine because I love Twilight, so it's a dream come true. So I thought we could just have some nice little soft talking reading chapter by chapter series. Maybe 2 chapters if I really feel up to reading that day. But I thought it would be a good way to get me to read and give content. So we're filming at a window. That's great, right? So let's get into it. Hell yeah. Okay. So let's see. We'll read the little front insert here because the back is just a bit from the book itself. So let's see. My whole world changed when I stepped into the academy. Nothing is right about this place or the other students in it. Here I am, a mere mortal among the gods or monsters. I still can't decide which of these warring factions I belong to, if I belong at all. I only know one thing that unites them is their hatred of me. Then there's Jackson Vega, a vampire with deadly secrets who hasn't felt anything for 100 years. But there's something about him that calls to me, something broken that... I thought my phone went off for a second, sorry. But there's something about him that calls to me, something broken in him that somehow fits what's broken in me, which could spell death for us all. But Jackson walled himself off for a reason, and now someone wants to wake a sleeping monster, and I wonder if I was brought here intentionally as the bait. So now we're gonna take off the sleeve because it's quite slippery, one might say. So we'll take that off. I got this at Target for 20% off. Cute. Oh, and it's such a nice red. I enjoy it. Fun. Okay. Apparently, New York Times bestselling author Tracy Wolff. I've never heard of her before. To be fair, I'm not a reader, like I said, so for me to not hear of someone is not abnormal. So, oh, another fun little thing is it has ribbed pages. Which is so fun. Makes it a bit harder to read though, I've discovered. A bit harder to grip on because I'm used to doing this. Goddamn. Taking the side to pull it in, but now I just gotta go from the bottom. So this is for my boys who have always believed in me, and for Stephanie who helped me believe in myself again. So Stephanie Myers, I'm assuming. Is this... Oh yeah, okay, so there's a prologue. I don't like reading the prologue, so you're not getting that today. Chapter 1. landing is just throwing yourself at the ground and hoping you don't miss, is the name of the chapter. There she is, Philip says as we clear the peak of several mountains, taking one hand off the steering wheel column to point at a small collection of buildings in the distance. Healy, Alaska. Home sweet home. Oh wow, it looks tiny. It looks really, really tiny. Way smaller than my neighborhood in San Diego, let alone the whole city. Then again, it's pretty hard to see much of anything from up here, not because of the mountains that loom over the area like long-forgetting monsters, but because we're in the middle of a weird kind of haze that Philip refers to, quote-unquote, civil twilight, even though it's barely 5 o'clock. Still, I could see well enough to make him out that the so-called buildings he's pointing to is full of mismatched buildings randomly grouped together. I finally settle on interesting. It looks interesting. It's not the first description that popped into my head. No. It was the old cliche that hell was actually frozen over, but it was the most polite one as Philip drops even lower, preparing for what I'm pretty sure is yet another harrowing incident in the list of harrowing incidents that plagued me since... God, these are very thin pages. Since I got on the first of 3 planes 10 hours ago. Sure enough, I've only spotted what passes. Sure enough, I've only spotted what passes for an airport in this 1,000 town. Thank you, Google. When Philip says, "Hang on, Grace," it's a short runway because it's hard to keep a long one clear of snow or ice for any amount of time out here. It's going to be a quick landing. I have no idea what quote-unquote quick landing means, but it doesn't sound good. So I grab the bar of the plane, which I'm pretty sure exists for this very reason, to hold on as tight as we can as we drop lower and lower. "Okay, kid, here goes nothing," Philip tells me, which, by the way, definitely makes the top 5 things you don't ever want to hear your pilot say while you're still in the air. The groom looms white and unyielding below us, and I squeeze my eyes shut. Seconds later, I feel the wheels skip across the ground, then Philip hits the brakes hard enough to slam me forward, so fast my seatbelt is the only thing keeping my head from meeting the control panel. The plane whines, not sure what part of it is making that horrendous noise, or if it's a collective death knell, so I choose not to focus on it, especially when we are skidding to the left. I bite my lip, keeping my eyes squeezed firmly shut, as my heart threatens to burst out of my chest. If this is the end, I don't want to see it coming. The thought distracts me, has me wondering just what my mom and dad might have seen coming. By the time I shut down that line of thinking, Philip has the plane sliding to a shaking, shuddering halt. I know exactly how it feels. Right now, even my toes are trembling. I peel my eyes open slowly, resisting the urge to pat myself down to make sure I'm still in one piece, but Philip just laughs and says, "Textbook landing." Maybe if that textbook is a horror novel, when he's reading upside down and backwards. I don't say anything, though. Just give him the best smile I can manage and grab my backpack from under my feet. I pull out a pair of gloves Uncle Finn sent me and put them on. Then I push open the door plane and jump down, praying the whole time my knees will support me when I hit the ground. They do, just barely. After taking a few seconds to make sure I'm not going to crumble, to pull my brand new coat more tightly around me because it's literally 8 degrees out here, I head to the back of the plane to get the 3 suitcases that are always left in my life. I feel pain looking at them. I don't let myself dwell on everything I had to leave behind. any more than I let myself dwell on the idea of living with strangers in a house that I grew up in. After all, who cares about a house or art supplies or a drum kit when I've lost so much more? Instead, I grab a bag of what passes the tiny airport cargo, fold and wrestle it to the ground. Before I can reach for the second, Philip is there, lifting my other 2 suitcases like they're filled with pillows instead of everything I own in the world. Come on, Grace. Let's go before you start turning blue out here. He nods towards the parking lot. Not even a building, just a parking lot. About 200 yards away, and I want to groan. It's so cold out now that I'm shaking for a whole different reason. How can anyone live like this? It's unreal, especially considering it was 70 degrees when I woke up this morning. There's nothing to do but nod, so I do. Then grab out onto the handle of my suitcase and start dragging it towards a small patch of concrete that I'm sure passes for an airport helix. It's a far cry from San Diego bustling terminals. Philip overtakes me easily, a large suitcase dangling from each hand. I start to tell him that he could pull the handles out and roll them. But the second I step off the runway onto the snowy ground that surrounds it in all directions, I figure out why he's carrying them. It's pretty much impossible to roll a heavy suitcase over the snow. I'm nearly frozen by the time that we make it halfway through the thankfully still plowed parking lot. Despite my heavy jacket and synthetic fur-lined gloves, I'm not sure what I'm supposed to do from here. How I'm supposed to get to the boarding school my uncle is the headmaster of. So I turn to ask Philip if Uber is even a thing out here. And before I could get out a word, someone steps out from behind one of the pickup trucks in the lot and rushes straight towards me. I think it's my cousin, Macy, but it's hard to tell, considering she's covered from head to toe in protective winter gear. You're here! A moving pile of hats, scarves, jackets says, I was right. It's definitely Macy. I'm here, I agree dryly, wondering if it's too late to reconsider foster care or emancipation. Any living situation in San Diego has got to be better than living in a town whose airport consists of one runway and a tiny parking lot. Heather is going to die when I text her. Finally, Macy says, reaching out for a hug. It's a little awkward, partly because of all the clothes she's wearing, and partly because, despite being a year younger than my own 17 years, she's about 8 inches taller than I am. I've been waiting for more than an hour. Yeah. Why were you there for an hour? Girl, why were you there for an hour? Why? I could have said like 30 minutes. That would have been more reasonable. Anyway. I hug her back, but let go quickly and answer, sorry, my plane was late from Seattle. The storm there made it hard to take off. Okay. I take back that last sentence. Yeah, we hear that a lot. She tells me with a grimace. Pretty sure their weather is even worse than ours. I want to agree. Miles of snow, enough protective gear to give astronauts pause, seems pretty freaking awful to me. But I don't know Macy all that well, despite the fact that we're cousins. The last thing I want to do is offend her. Besides Uncle Finn and now Philip, she's the only person I know in this place. Not to mention the only family I have left. Which is why, in the end, I just shrug. It must be a good enough answer, though, because she grins back at me before turning to Philip, who is still carrying my suitcase. Thank you so much for picking her up, Uncle Philip. Dad says to tell you he owes you a case of beer. No worries, Mace. Had to run a few errands in Fairbanks anyway. Fairbanks, Alaska. I know that place. He says it so casually. Just hopping on a plane for a couple 100-mile round trip journey. No big deal. Then again, out here there's nothing but mountains and snow in all directions. Maybe it's not. After all, according to Wikipedia, Healy only has one major road in and out of it, and in the winter sometimes that even gets closed down. I spent the last months trying to imagine what it would look like, what it is like. I guess I'm about to find out. Still, he says that he'll be around Friday with beers, so you guys can go watch the game in a true bromancy style. She turns to me. My dad's really upset he couldn't make it out here to pick you up, Grace. There's an emergency at the school that no one else could deal with. But, he told me to get him the second we made it back. No worries, I tell her, because what else am I supposed to say? Besides, if I've learned anything in the month since my parents died, it's just how little most things matter. Who cares about who's going to pick me up as long as I get to go to school? Who cares where I live, as long as I'm not going to be with my mom and dad? Philip walks us up to the edge of the clear parking lot before letting go of my suitcase. Macy gives him a quick hug, goodbye, and I shake my hand, murmur, thanks for coming to get me. Not a problem at all. Anytime you need a flight, I'm your man. He winks and heads back to the tarmac to deal with his plane. We watch him go for a couple seconds before Macy grabs the handles of both suitcases and starts rolling them across the tiny parking lot. She gestures to me to do the same with the one that I'm holding, so I do. Even though a part of me wants nothing more than to run back to the tarmac with Philip, climb back into the tiny plane, and demand to go back down to Fairbanks, or even better, back home to San Diego. That feeling only gets worse when Macy says, do you need to pee? It's a good 90-minute ride to the school from here. 90 minutes? That doesn't seem possible when the whole town looks like we could drive it in 15, maybe 20 minutes at most. Then again, when we were flying over, I didn't see any buildings remotely big enough to be a boarding school for close to 400 teenagers, so maybe the school isn't actually in Healy. That's tiny. Well, I think, no, that's about the size of the high school that I went to. I take it back. We were a small high school though, so anyway. Continuing on. I can't help but to think of the mountains and rivers that surrounded this town in all directions and wonder where on earth I'm going to end up before this day is through, and exactly where she expects me to pee anywhere out here. I'm okay, I say after a minute, even though my stomach somersaults and pitches nervously. The whole day has been about getting here, and that was bad enough. But as we roll my suitcases through the semi-darkness, the well below freezing air slapping me in the face with each step we take, everything is super surreal, super fast. Especially when Macy walks through the entire parking lot to this snowmobile parked just beyond the edge of the pavement. At first I think she's joking, but then she starts loading my suitcase onto the attached sled, and it occurs to me that this is really happening. I'm really going to ride a snowmobile in near dark through Alaska in weather that is going to be 20 degrees below freezing, if the app of my phone can be believed. All that is missing is the wicked witch cackling that she is going to get me and my little dog too. Then again, at this point, that would probably be redundant. I watch in a kind of horrified fascination as Macy straps my suitcases to the sled. I should probably offer to help, but I wouldn't even know where to begin. And the last thing I want to do is for the few belongings I have left in the woods to be strewn across the side of a mountain. And I figured that there was ever a time to leave things to the experts. This is it. Here, you're going to need this, she tells me, opening a small bag that was already strapped to the sled when we got out here. She rummages around for a second, before pulling out a pair of heavy snow pants and thick wool scarf. They're both hot pink. My favorite color when I was a kid, but not so much now. Still, it's obvious Macy remembered from the last time I saw her. I can't help but being touched, as she holds them out to me. Thanks. I gave her the closest thing to a smile I could manage. After a few false starts, I managed to pull the pants over my thermal underwear and fleece pajama pants with emojis on them, the only kind of fleece pants I own, and then that I put on at my uncle's instructions before boarding the plane to Seattle. And I take a long look at the way Macy's rainbow-colored scarf is wrapped around her neck and face, and I do the same with mine. It's harder than it looks, especially when trying to position it well enough to keep it from sliding down my nose the second I move. Eventually, I manage it, though. That's when Macy reaches out for one of the helmets draped over the snowmobile's handlers. The helmet is insulated and will help you keep warm as well as to protect your head in case of a crash, she instructs. Plus, if it's got a shield to protect your eyes from the cold air. My eyes can freeze? I asked, more than a little traumatized as I take the helmet from her and try to ignore how hard it is to breathe with the scarf over my nose. Eyes don't freeze. Macy answers with a little laugh, like she can't help herself. But the shield keeps them from watering up and will make you more comfortable. Alright. I duck my head as my cheeks heat up. I'm an idiot. No, you're not. Macy wraps her arms around my shoulders and squeezes tight. Alaska's a lot. Everyone who comes here has a learning curve. They'll figure it out soon enough. What a nice cousin. What a nice cousin. I'm not holding my breath on that one. I can't imagine that this cold, foreign place would ever feel familiar to me, but I don't say anything. Not when Macy has already done so much to try and make me feel welcome. I'm really sorry you had to come here, Grace, she continues after a second. I mean, I'm really excited you're here. I just wish it wasn't because... Her voice slowly drifts off before she finishes the sentence. But I'm used to that by now. After weeks of having my friends and teachers tiptoe around me, I've learned that no one wants to say the word. Still, I'm too exhausted to fill in the blanks. Instead, I slip my head into the helmet and secure it the way Macy showed me. Ready? She asked once I got my face and head protected as protected as they were going to get. The answer hasn't changed since Philip asked me the same question in Fairbanks. Not even close. Yeah, absolutely. I wait for Macy to climb onto the snowmobile before getting on behind her. Hold my waist, she shouts as she turns it on. So do I. Seconds later, we're speeding off into the darkness that stretches endlessly in front of us. I've never been more terrified in my life. That's so nice. Okay. Well, that actually ended a bit quicker than anticipated. So, I'm just going to take a quick little look at how many pages. The next chapter is going to be... So, we're going to take a quick little break from that. Drink some water. Enjoy this amazing cup. Water is so nice. Okay. So, I'm liking this so far. Definitely, I think. Weird backstory. Not weird backstory, unfortunate backstory. I had her parents, but fun so far. I'm enjoying it. I've never read this, so this is our first time together. How fun. So, but what a sweet cousin. That's so fun. Yeah. Okay. I could probably raise my voice a little bit more. The ride there isn't as bad as I thought it would be. I mean, it's not good, but that has more to do with the fact that I've been traveling all day and I just want to get someplace, any place, where I can stay longer than a layover, or probably a really long snowmobile ride. And if that place happens to be warm and devoid of the local wildlife I can hear howling in the distance, then I'm all about it. Especially since everything south of my waist seems to be falling asleep. Yeah, maybe I should have taken a break in there. I'm in the middle of trying to figure out how to wake up my very numb butt when we suddenly veer off the trail. I mean trail in a loose sense of words, that we've been following into a kind of plateau on the side of a mountain. It's as we wind our way through yet another corpse of trees, I finally see lights up ahead of me. Is that Cademy or Academy? I shout. Yeah, Macy lays off the speed a little bit, steering around trees, like we're a giant Salem course. We should be there in about 5 minutes. Thank God. Much longer out here and I may actually lose a toe, or 3. Even with my double socks. I mean, everyone knows Alaska's cold, but what can I say? It's freaking cold, and I'm not prepared. Yet another roar sounds in the distance, but as we finally clear the thicket of trees, it's hard to pay attention to anything but the huge building looming in front of us, growing closer with every second that passes. Or should I say, the huge castle looming in front of us. Because of the dwelling I'm looking at as if nothing like a modern building, and absolutely nothing like any school that I've ever seen. I tried to Google it before I got here, but apparently Academy is so elite that even Google hasn't heard of it. That's sketchy. Why were you not sketched out by that girl? God damn. Okay, well that actually made lighting so much worse. Cute, okay. So cute, really happy with that. First of all, it's big. Like really big. And sprawling. From here, it looks like the brick wall in front of the building, in front of the castle, stretches halfway around the mountain. Second, it's elegant. Like really, really elegant. With architecture that I've only heard described in my art class before. Vaulted arches, flying buttresses, a giant on-right window dominating the structure. And third, as we get closer, I can't help from wondering if my eyes are deceiving me or if there's gargoyles, actual gargoyles, protruding from the top of the castle walls. I don't know if it's my imagination or if I've been lying if I said I didn't half expect to see Quasimodo waiting for us when we finally got there. Macy pulls up to the huge gate at the front of the school and enters the code. Seconds later, the gate swings open and we're on our way again. The closer we get, the more surreal everything feels. Like I'm trapped in a horror movie or a Salvador Dali painting. Academy may be gothic, but at least there's no moat, I tell myself as we break through the last copse of trees. Copse? I've been saying corpse. It's cops. Sorry about that. And no fire-breathing dragon protecting the entrance. As a long, winding driveway that looks like every other prep school driveway I've ever seen on TV, except for the fact of it's covered in snow. Big shock. That leads right up to the school's huge, incredibly ornate front doors, antique doors, castle doors. I shake my head to clear it. I mean, what even is my life right now? I told you it wouldn't be so bad, Macy says as we pull up the front with a spray of snow. We didn't even see a carabao, let alone a wolf. Oh, a caribou. We didn't even see a caribou, let alone a wolf. I'm keeping that in because that was fucking funny. She's right. So I just nod and pretend I'm not completely overwhelmed. Pretend like my stomach isn't tied into knots. My whole world hasn't turned upside down for the second time in a month. Pretend like I'm okay. Let's bring your suitcases up to your room and get you unpacked. It'll help you relax. Macy climbs off the snowmobile, then takes off her helmet and her hat. It's for the first time I see her without all the cold weather gear. I can't help but smiling at her rainbow-colored hair. It's cut in a short, choppy style that should have been smushed and plastered to their head after 3 hours in a helmet. But instead, she looks like she just walked out of a salon. Which matches the rest of her, now that I think about it, considering her whole coordinating jacket, boots, and snow pants look kind of like a Shout's cover model for some Alaskan wilderness fashion magazine. Can I have better lighting, please? Thank you. God damn. Oh. As if it's not my fault that I'm sitting in front of this. On the other hand, I'm pretty sure my look says I've gone a couple hours. I've done. Sorry. I read ahead a little bit. On the other hand, I'm pretty sure my look says I've gone a couple rounds with a pissed off caribou and lost badly. Which seems fair, since that's how I feel. Macy makes quick work of unloading my suitcases, and this time I grab 2 of them, but I only make it a few steps up the very long walk to the castle, imposing doors before I'm struggling to breathe. It's the altitude, Macy says as she takes one of the suitcases out of my hand. We climbed very fast, and since you're coming from sea level, it's going to take a few days before you get used to how thin the air is up here. Just the idea of not being able to breathe sets off the beginning of the panic attack I've barely kept away all day. Closing my eyes, I take a deep breath, or as deep as I can out here, and try to fight it back. In, hold for 5 seconds, out. In, hold for 10 seconds, out. In, 5 seconds, out. Just like Heather's mom taught me. Dr. Blake is a therapist, and she's been giving me tips on how to deal with anxiety that I've been having since my parents died. I'm not sure her tips are up to combating any more, or combating all of this more than I am. Still, I can't stand here frozen forever, like one of the gargoyles staring down at me, especially not when I can feel Macy's concern even with my eyes closed. I take one more deep breath and open my eyes again, shooting my cousin a smile I'm far from feeling. Fake it till you make it is still a thing, right? It's going to be okay, she tells me, her eyes wide with sympathy. Just stand there and catch your breath. I'll carry the suitcases up to the door. I can do it. Seriously, it's okay. Chill for a minute. She holds up her hand as the universal stop gesture. We're not in any hurry. Her tone begs me not to argue, so I don't, especially since the panic attack I've been trying to fend off is only making it harder to breathe. Instead, I nod as and watch her carry my suitcases one at a time up to the school's front door. Another water break. It's dry here, let me tell you. Okay. As I do, a flash of color above us catches my eye. It's there and gone so fast I can barely even scan for it. I can't be sure if it even existed to begin with, except there it is again, a flash of red in the lit window of the tallest tower. I don't know who it is or why they even mattered, but I stop where I am, watching waiting, wondering if whoever it is will make another appearance. It isn't long before they do. I can't clearly see it. Distance, the darkness, and the distorted glass of the window cover up a lot, but I'm getting the impression of a strong jaw, shaggy, dark hair, and red jacket against the background of the light. It's not much. There's no reason for it to have caught my eyes' attention. Certainly no reason it would have held my attention. And yet, I find myself staring up at the window so long that Macy has all 3 of my suitcases at the top of the stairs before I even realize it. Ready to try again? She calls down from her spot near the stairs. Oh yeah, of course. I start up the last 30 or so steps, ignoring the way my head is spinning, altitude sickness. One more thing I never had to worry about in San Diego. Fantastic. I glance up at the window one last time, not surprised at all to find whoever it was looking down at me long gone. Still, an inexplicable shiver of disappointment works its way down through me. It makes no sense though, so I shrug it off. I have bigger things to worry about right now. This place is unbelievable, I tell my cousin as she pushes open one of the doors and we walk inside. Holy crap, I thought the castle thing, with its pointed arches and elaborate stonework, was imposing from the outside. But now that I've seen it from the inside, I'm pretty sure I should be curtsying right about now, or at least bowing and scraping. I mean, wow. Just wow. I don't know where to look first. At the high ceilings with its elaborate black crystal chandelier, with a roaring fireplace that dominates the whole right wall of the foyer. In the end, I go with the fireplace because heat. And because it's freaking gorgeous. The mantle around is a enticing, the mantle around its intricate pattern of stone and stained glass that reflects the light of the flames through the whole room. Pretty cool, huh? Macy says with a grin as she comes up behind me. Totally cool. I agree. This place is magic. I know. She wiggles her eyebrows at me. Want to see some more? I really do. I'm still far from sold on Alaska boarding school thing. That doesn't mean I don't want to check out the castle. I mean, it's a castle, complete with stone walls and elaborate tapestries. I can't help but want to stop and look as we make our way through the entryway into some kind of common room. The only problem is that the deeper we move into the school, the more students we come across. Some are standing around in scattered clumps, talking and laughing, while others are seated at several of the rooms, scared wooden boards, leaning over books or phones or laptop screens. In the back corner of one room, sprawled out on several antique-looking couches in various hues of red and gold, is a group of 6 guys playing Xbox on a huge TV, while other students crowd around to watch. Only, as we get closer, they aren't watching the video games, or even their books, or even their phones. Instead, they're all looking at me. As Macy leads, and by leads, I mean parades, me through the center of the room, my stomach clenches. I duck my head to hide my very obvious discomfort. I get that everyone wants to check out the new girl, especially because she's the headmaster's niece. But understanding doesn't make it easier to bear the scrutiny of a bunch of strangers, especially when I'm pretty sure I have the worst case of helmet hair ever recorded. I am too busy avoiding eye contact and regulating my breathing to talk as we make our way through the room. But as we exit into a long, winding hallway, I finally tell Macy, I can't believe you go to school here. We both go to school here, she reminds me with a quick grin. Yeah, but I just got here, and I never felt more out of place in my life. But, she repeats, eyebrows arched, it's a lot. I eye the gorgeous stained glass windows that run along the exterior wall and the elaborate carved moldings that decorate the arched ceilings. It is. She slows down until I catch up. But it's home. Your home, I whisper, doing my best to not think of the house that I left behind, where my mother's front porch, wind chimes, and whirlwinds were the most wild and crazy things about it. Our home. She answers and pulls out her phone and sends a quick text. You'll see. Speaking of which, my dad wants me to give you a choice on what kind of room situation you want. Room situation? I repeat, glancing around the castle, while images of ghosts in animated suits of armor slide through my head. Well, all the single rooms have been assigned this term. Dad told me we could move some people around to get you one, but I really hope you wanted to room with me instead. She smiles hopefully for a second, but quickly fades as she continues. I mean, I totally get you might need some space to yourself right now after. There's the fade out again. It gets to me, just like it does every time. Usually, I ignore it, but this time I can't stop myself from asking, after what? Just this once, I want someone else to say it. Maybe then it'll feel more real and less of a nightmare. Except, Maisie gasps and turns to color the snow outside. I realize it's not going to be her, and it's unfair to expect of me to expect it to be. I'm sorry, she whispers. And now it almost looks like she's going to cry, which no, just no. We're not going to go there. Not when the only thing currently holding me together is a snarky attitude and my ability to compartmentalize? I don't know. Beats me, that word, guys. But no way am I going to lose my grip on either. Not here, not in front of my cousin, and anyone else who might happen to pass by. Not now, when it's obvious from all the stares that I'm the newest attraction at the zoo. So instead of melting into Macy for a hug I so desperately need, instead of letting myself think how much I miss home and my parents and my life, I pull back and give her the best smile I can manage. Why don't you show me to our room? The concern in her eyes doesn't diminish, but the sunshine definitely makes another appearance. Our room? Really? I sigh deep inside and kiss my dreams of a little peaceful solitude goodbye. It's not hard as it should be, but then I've lost a lot more in the last month than my own space. Really, rooming with you sounds perfect. I've already upset her once, which is not my style. Neither is getting someone kicked out of their room. Besides being rude and smacking of nepotism, it seems a surefire way to piss people off. Something that is definitely not on my to-do list right now. Awesome! Macy grins and throws her arms around me for a fast but powerful hug. She then glances at her phone with a roll of her eyes. Dad still hasn't answered my text. He's the worst about checking his phone. Why don't you hang out here and I'll go get him? I know he wanted to see you as soon as we arrived. Can I come with you? Please. Just sit, Grace. She points to the ornate French-style chairs with that flank a small chess table and the alcove that is right to the staircase. I'm sure you're exhausted, and I've got to be honest. And I got this, honest. Relax a minute while I get Dad. Because she's right. My head is aching, and my chest still feels tight. I just nod and plop down on the closest chair. I'm beyond tired and wanting nothing more than to lean my head back against a chair and close my eyes for a minute. but I'm afraid I'll fall asleep if I do. In no way am I running the risk of being caught as the girl drooling all over herself in the hallway on the very first day, or even, for that matter, that makes sense, it's fine. Or to keep myself from drifting off, then out of actual interest, I pick up one of the chess pieces in front of me. It's made of intricately carved stone. My eyes widen as I realize what I'm looking at. A perfect retination of a vampire, right down to the black cape, frightening snarl, and bared fangs. It matches the gothic style vibe so well that I can't help but be amused. Plus, it's gorgeously crafted. Intrigued now, I reach for a piece on the other side and nearly laugh out loud when I realize it's a dragon. Fierce, regal, with giant wings. It's absolutely beautiful. The whole set is. I put the piece down to only pick up another dragon. This one is less fierce, but it has sleepy eyes and folded wings. And it's more intricate. I look over carefully, fascinated with the level of detail in this piece. Everything from the perfect points of the wings to the carefully curve of each talon reflects how much care the artist put into this piece. I've never been a chess girl, but this might just change my mind about the game. When I put this dragon piece down, I go to the other side of the board and pick up the vampire queen. She's beautiful, with long flowing hair and an elaborately decorated cape. Love this cup. Okay. I'd be careful with that one if I were you. She's got a nasty bite. The words are low and rumbly, so close that I nearly fall out of my chair. Instead, I jump up, popping the chess piece down with a clatter, then whirl around, heart pounding, only to find myself face to face with the most intimidating guy I've ever met, or ever seen. Not just because he's hot, although he's definitely that. Still, there's something more about him. Something different and powerful and overwhelming, though I don't have a clue what it is. I mean, sure, he has the kind of face 19th century poets loved to write about. Too intense to be beautiful and too striking to be anything else. Skyscraper cheekbones, full red lips, and jaw so sharp it could cut stone. My God, get a grip. Sorry. And his eyes, a bottomless obsidian that sees everything and shows nothing, surrounded by the longest, most obscene lashes I've ever seen, and even worse, those all-knowing eyes are laser focused on me right now. I'm suddenly terrified that he could see all the things I've worked so hard and so long to hide. I try to duck my head, try to yank my gaze from his, but I can't. I'm trapped in his stare, hypnotized by the sheer magnetism going off of his waves. I swallow hard to catch my breath. It doesn't work. And now he's grinning, one corner of his mouth turning upright in a crooked smile that I feel in every single cell, which only makes it worse, because that smirk says he knows exactly what effect he's having on me, and worse, he's enjoying it. Annoyance flashes through me at the realization, melting the numbness that surrounded me since my parents' death, waking me up from the scepter. That's the only thing that's kept me from screaming all day, every day, at the unfairness of it all. At the pain and horror and helplessness that has taken over my whole life. It's not a good feeling. The fact that it's this guy with a smirk in the face and the cold eyes that refuse to relinquish their hold on me as they demand that I do not look too closely just pisses me off more. It's the anger that finally gives me the strength to break free of his gaze. I rip my eyes away, then search desperately for something else, anything else, to focus on. Unfortunately, he's standing right in front of me, so close that he's blocking my view of anything else. Determined to avoid his eyes, I look anywhere but, and land on his long, lean body that I really wish I hadn't, because the black jeans and t-shirt he's wearing only emphasizes his flat stomach and hard, well-defined biceps, not to mention the double wide shoulders that are absolutely responsible for blocking my view in the first place. Adding in the thick, dark hair that's worn a little too long, that falls forward into his face and skims low across his insane cheekbones, there's nothing to do but give in. Nothing to do but admit, the obvious smirk or not, this boy is sexy as hell. A little wicked, a lot wild, and all dangerous. What little oxygen I've been able to pull into my lungs in this high altitude completely disappears with the realization, which only makes me madder. Like, seriously, what exactly did I do to become the heroine of a Your Name romance? The new girl swooning over the hottest, most unattainable boy in school? Gross. It's so not happening. Determined to nip whatever it is in the bud, I force myself to look at his face again. This time, our gazes meet and clash. I realize that it doesn't matter if I'm acting like a giant romance cliche, because he isn't. One glance, and I know that this dark boy has closed off eyes, and the fuck you attitude isn't a hero of anyone's story, at least not mine. That was the first 2 chapters of Crave. So fun. Love it. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you ever want to read this for yourself, Target has it, and I know that this author has a few more books. I'm not sure if they're series, or if it's just kind of like a one-off book, because there's 2 other books that I saw, but they didn't look entirely related, so it's a little hard to tell. But if you ever want to read it, right along with me, I'd say go get it. I'm enjoying it so far, and I hope you guys are too. So I